Dinar shift. If you've been following the conversation around the Iraqi dinar, you know that every major development, every shift in global financial chatter, brings a new wave of intense scrutiny and speculation. Today, that spotlight is burning brighter than ever, focusing on one of the most unexpected, yet highly significant, players in the global economy, Canada. The discussions sweeping through investor communities, analyst forums, and currency speculation groups are centering on the theory that this major global financial power may be quietly positioning itself to handle a potential surge in dinar-related activity. This sudden focus on Canada has ignited one of the fiercest debates seen in years, prompting holders to ask a simple, yet pivotal set of questions. Why is Canada the center of this conversation right now, and what does this highly speculative chatter mean for those holding the Iraqi currency? We're diving deep into the analysis, the market psychology, and the reasons why this particular theory has captured global attention. The common thread weaving through these far-reaching investor communities is the compelling idea that specific financial systems are adapting their operations to efficiently manage what could be a higher volume of foreign currency traffic, with a notable emphasis on the Iraqi dinar. It is crucial to underscore that this narrative is purely speculative, completely unconfirmed by any official statements or visible action, yet the sheer magnitude of the conversation warrants serious analytical attention. Enthusiasts and analysts are meticulously examining minor banking patterns, discussing potential enhancements in internal service infrastructure, and referencing historical trends where nations sometimes proactively update their financial mechanisms in anticipation of fluctuating global demand for specific foreign currencies. This is the context that brings Canada into the heart of the current speculation. Analysts have long regarded Canada as a beacon of stability and organization within the international financial landscape. Its reputation for strong regulation and reliable banking structures makes it a natural focal point whenever large-scale international currency speculation trends emerge. The hypothesis currently dominating forums suggests that as global interest in the Iraqi dinar continues its upward trajectory, fueled by ongoing economic and political developments in Iraq, Canadian financial systems might be undergoing quiet, gradual adaptations. This preparation, according to the theory, is not based on any confirmed revaluation, but rather on the standard operational principle that financial institutions constantly adjust their capacity based on observed market behaviors, evolving client needs, and meticulous risk management protocols. This intersection of speculation with analytical observation is where serious holders are spending their time, seeking to interpret the subtle, non-public signals of institutional preparedness. The specific emergence of Canada in these discussions is rooted in a studied observation of patterns within the world of currency speculation. Serious market observers spend significant time analyzing how major international banks implement staff training, update their core software systems, expand customer service channels dedicated to foreign exchange, and test new verification technology for paper notes. While none of these routine activities serve as direct confirmation of an impending major currency shift, they frequently spark the interpretation that specific nations might be anticipating an elevated level of demand. Canada, with its established global reputation for transparent operations and robust financial regulation, becomes an ideal, high-confidence candidate for these theoretical discussions, drawing the attention of those who track institutional preparedness. Analysts often present the logical argument that if any major modern economy were to theoretically prepare for a significant, sudden surge in specialized foreign currency activity, the Canadian system would be one of the first and most important to watch. This attention isn't because Canadian banks are predicted to lead a dinar rate change, but rather because Canadian financial infrastructure is historically recognized for its swift and adaptive response to global currency movements, international travel fluctuations, and shifts in worldwide remittance flows. Consequently, when observers note even minor, incremental changes, such as enhanced teller training, the rollout of updated currency scanning technology, or the introduction of more structured verification workflows, speculation naturally drifts toward theories of preparation, underscoring the vital insight into market psychology that these conversations offer. This line of thinking leads us to a central question that underpins the entire narrative: what precisely is meant by an IQD exchange surge within speculative communities? In this context, it refers simply to a potential marked increase in the number of individuals presenting Iraqi dinar notes at banks, currency exchange counters, or specialized financial centers. This activity could be driven by standard foreign currency transactions, strategic diversification efforts by investors, or a reaction to global events and news that significantly influence overall investor sentiment. These types of volume surges are not unprecedented. They have occurred with various other currencies during periods of geopolitical change or significant economic restructuring. The current prevailing theory is that highly stable nations like Canada may be implementing preparations for this kind of increased traffic, should interest in the dinar continue its global rise. The underlying rationale driving this theory is not a belief in guaranteed revaluation, but the core principle that financial institutions consistently prioritize readiness over operational surprise. Even a moderate, unexpected increase in customer traffic related to a specific foreign currency can stress an institution's capacity and necessitate rapid adjustments to workflows, staffing, and technology. Much of today's focused speculation stems from the belief that Canadian financial systems, renowned for their forward-looking efficiency, may be taking steps to actively prevent bottlenecks and ensure smooth operations should dinar-related movement become substantially elevated. Across diverse investor groups and public forums, this idea has gained considerable traction, solidifying its place not as a confirmati on an imminent event, but as a critical piece of analysis regarding how sophisticated financial bodies proactively prepare for potential volume volatility. To fully understand why this intense speculation has reached a fever pitch in 2025, one must look at the developments over the past few years, which have seen Iraq actively working to adjust its financial policies, increase institutional transparency, and forge new international partnerships designed to bolster currency confidence. Each time a definitive step in this direction is taken, the volume of investor chatter rises commensurately. And where this chatter increases, speculation inevitably follows, focusing on how global banks might react if a growing number of people start inquiring about large-scale currency exchanges or deposits involving the dinar. Canada, a country celebrated for its proactive system updates and technological edge, naturally becomes a central focus in these strategic conversations about potential global preparedness. Analysts and market commentators often suggest that if global interest in the dinar maintains its current upward trajectory, financial institutions worldwide will eventually face an operational necessity to manage the additional traffic and processing demands. Therefore, when astute observers detect any signs of infrastructure modernization, whether related to the verification of foreign notes, updates to teller software interfaces, or general compliance modernization, they may connect these improvements to the broader narrative of dinar speculation. Crucially, even if these observed upgrades have absolutely no direct correlation with the Iraqi dinar specifically, the simple coincidence of timing is often enough to fuel the fire of discussion. In speculative markets, which are heavily influenced by prevailing sentiment, perception can often become a self-fulfilling narrative that spreads much faster than verifiable facts. Let's dissect how experienced analysts interpret the phenomenon of what they term quiet institutional upgrades. In nearly all major financial environments, systems undergo necessary updates without the fanfare of public announcements, as these upgrades are considered routine operational necessities. Yet, in speculative circles, this routine activity is frequently reinterpreted as preparatory action. For instance, if a bank updates its devices used for foreign currency authentication, implements new training modules for specialized transactions, or subtly modifies its rules for exchange verification, a holder might view this as an early, though unconfirmed, signal of impending future activity. Canada's financial networks, recognized globally as being among the most technologically advanced, are constantly upgrading, a characteristic that only serves to amplify this cycle of speculation. Observers consistently note that large, well-managed financial institutions rarely wait passively for traffic surges to occur. They build capacity and prepare beforehand as a core tenet of risk management. When these planned updates coincide with a significant rise in global discussion about the dinar and its prospects, it intensifies the standing theory that Canada could be subtly positioning itself for elevated requests related to the IQD. Regardless of the ultimate accuracy of this interpretation, it provides a fascinating look into investor psychology. People meticulously watch for patterns, logically connect observed data points, and construct narratives around perceived possibilities. This mindset is the foundational energy driving the current wave of widespread discussion regarding a potential IQD exchange surge within the world's most stable financial centers. Turning now to the perspective of the dinar holders themselves. Many have maintained their position over years, scrutinizing detailed economic reports, navigating political shifts in the Middle East, and constantly monitoring global financial signals. Consequently, when speculation emerges suggesting that a major financial nation like Canada may be engaged in preparation related to the dinar, holders' attention becomes exceptionally focused. This narrative introduces a powerful sense of momentum and anticipation, even when the underlying institutional actions being observed are purely routine or coincidental. This is where the importance of balanced, responsible analysis becomes paramount for those following the story closely. Instead of jumping to the conclusion that institutional preparation equates to an immediate confirmed rate change, many seasoned observers view the discussion as an indicator of increased global participation in the dinar conversation, rather than a confirmed revaluation event. If a greater number of individuals worldwide begin investing in or exchanging the dinar for completely standard foreign currency purposes, financial systems must naturally adjust their operational capacity to meet this growing demand. This is precisely why Canada frequently enters the discussion. Its banks are often at the forefront of modernization, making them appear prepared even when they are simply undergoing standard proactive institutional upgrades. For holders, the clear takeaway is that being organized, informed, and prepared is always a beneficial position, irrespective of how these speculative theories ultimately unfold. One of the most frequently cited talking points among analysts is Canada's sterling reputation for sophisticated financial structure, rigorous training protocols, and unwavering regulatory compliance. This is a primary reason why speculation consistently gravitates toward Canada whenever conversations about currency activity intensify globally. The Canadian banking environment is internationally acclaimed for its efficiency, uncompromising security, and commitment to technological innovation. Therefore, when observers debate a potential surge in foreign currency activity, the ingrained assumption is that Canadian institutions would inherently be among the most operationally prepared to handle it. Even if this preparation remains firmly in the realm of theory, the narrative persists because it perfectly aligns with Canada's documented historical pattern of operating with proactive preparedness. This speculation gains particular traction when investors perceive a subtle synchronization of certain updates, such as improved internal cash handling protocols, the deployment of enhanced digital tracking systems, or a noticeable increase in general teller education regarding less frequently exchanged currencies. While these activities are typically considered routine operational adjustments necessary for a global bank, in the context of speculative communities, they are often immediately interpreted as potential indicators of a heightened state of readiness for increased IQD handling. While we must maintain the strict distinction that speculation is never confirmation, analyzing these patterns helps holders understand the deep-seated psychological drivers behind this particular topic's massive traction in 2025. It is also important to clearly define the concept of quiet preparation, a phrase that has surfaced repeatedly in analytical investor conversations. Quiet preparation does not imply an element of operational secrecy, it merely describes the routine, unpublicized nature of institutional upgrades. Banks generally do not issue press releases detailing their daily training schedules, minor system improvements, or equipment replacement cycles unless they directly impact customer service. However, analysts look past the public announcements and discern patterns anyway. When these observed patterns align temporally with a notable increase in global discussions surrounding the dinar, a speculative narrative naturally forms. The prevailing theory suggests that if more holders begin proactively approaching banks with dinar-related inquiries, whether for standard exchange or verification, institutions, like those in Canada, would prioritize preparedness to handle them efficiently, not out of an expectation of a revaluation, but because customer demand inherently drives operational planning. This line of logic suggests that as global speculation intensifies, operational planning must also intensify to meet the potential for increased volume. This is the underlying rationale behind the current theory that Canada's financial infrastructure may be evolving in ways that align perfectly with potential shifts in foreign currency volume, including a potential rise in the handling of the dinar. Furthermore, another layer of complexity involves global market behavior and the phenomenon of interconnectivity. When one major world economy appears, even if only through speculation, to be preparing for increased currency-related activity, it inevitably prompts immediate conversations in other key financial centers. Analysts immediately begin asking if similar behavioral patterns are emerging across Europe, Asia, or the Middle East. Even in the absence of direct, verifiable evidence, the process of speculation can become self-amplifying, spreading globally. This is precisely the scenario unfolding with the current focus on Canada. Some analysts suggest that if the Canadian system were, hypothetically, preparing to manage increased IQD traffic, other influential financial centers might eventually adopt similar modernization strategies. This potential CR eats a powerful ripple effect, where initial speculation amplifies subsequent speculation. Holders hear the news, investors engage in intense debate, And soon the entire currency speculation community becomes hyper-focused on this singular possibility. This situation does not confirm any specific future event, but clearly demonstrates the interconnected and rapid nature of global financial sentiment. Canada's reputation alone possesses the power to ignite a worldwide conversation, illustrating the immense power of perception in financial speculation. Let's now examine the inevitable emotional impact this scale of speculation has on dinar holders. Many have maintained their position over long periods, weathering slow economic developments, political uncertainties, and major global shifts. Consequently, when a new theory arises, particularly one involving major, credible countries, it immediately sparks a complex mix of hope, intense curiosity, and occasionally skepticism. This emotional oscillation is an inherent part of the currency speculation landscape. However, experienced holders understand that emotional reactions must be tempered by practical preparation. Even if the current speculation about Canada's readiness proves completely unrelated to the dinar, being personally organized, informed, and ready is never a wasted effort. This is why serious holders consistently prioritize practical steps, meticulous documentation, organized note storage, staying aware of official exchange procedures, and thoroughly understanding the specific requirements for currency verification. Speculation is inherently cyclical, rising and falling with news and rumor, but personal readiness remains a constant valuable asset. Regardless of whether Canada is specifically preparing for IQD traffic or simply engaged in its routine enhancement of its advanced banking infrastructure, holders benefit immensely by remaining attentive without becoming emotionally reactive. The emphasis should always be on pragmatic preparedness. Shifting into the analytical factors, some observers believe a global increase in dinar exchange activity is a logical outcome due to Iraq's recent, concrete steps toward economic reforms, the strengthening of key international partnerships, and the ongoing improvement of its regulatory frameworks. Whenever a country successfully stabilizes its financial systems, even through a gradual process, foreign interest tends to rise. Investors begin to explore long-term possibilities, conduct deeper research, and look to strategically diversify their holdings. This creates tangible shifts in market behavior that, in turn, influence global banking operations. If a broader base of people, even in small numbers, demonstrates increased interest in exchanging or holding the Iraqi dinar, financial institutions may respond with improved systems, independent of any actual rate changes. This institutional readiness in the face of increased interest is the precise core of the speculation surrounding Canada today. The theory is not that a new value is confirmed or guaranteed, but rather that growing global interest is likely prompting broader institutional readiness across advanced economies. And because the Canadian system often demonstrates a pattern of early adaptation to evolving financial trends, analysts naturally integrate it into this specific line of reasoning. Another significant point of speculation centers on the rigorous banking verification processes. Whenever a financial institution upgrades its equipment for checking notes, enhances its foreign currency scanners, or improves its authentication protocols, investors often begin theorizing about which currencies might be receiving increased attention. In reality, these system upgrades are usually generic, multi-purpose enhancements unrelated to any one specific currency. However, speculation thrives in the gap between what is visibly observed and what is officially explained. Canada is particularly renowned for its continuous refreshment of verification systems to maintain a leading edge against counterfeit risks, meet demanding international trade requirements, and integrate the latest digital tooling. Consequently, when observers witness visible improvements to these systems occurring concurrently with a reported rise in global interest in the dinar, they interpret this as a potential sign that Canada could be preparing for increased IQD volume. True or not, the speculation itself vividly demonstrates how intensely currency holders monitor the subtle cues of institutional behavior, even when those signals might be purely coincidental. Taking a momentary look at the broader global foreign exchange landscape, it is clear that foreign currency traffic is a complex function influenced by global travel patterns, international trade volumes, overarching investment trends, global geopolitical events, and regional economic stability. Increases or decreases in any of these metrics inevitably prompt banks to adjust their operational capacity and internal workflows. For instance, if an institution anticipates a rise in travel to a particular region, they may increase their stock of that currency. If global trade expands, verification systems may be enhanced. Similarly, if speculative interest in a currency like the Iraqi dinar grows, banks may eventually adapt their systems to ensure proper and secure handling, even if the absolute number of actual exchanges remains small. This institutional adaptability is why analysts introduce Canada into the discussion, Its banking system is highly responsive and sophisticated in adapting to global patterns. Therefore, if the volume of global chatter around the dinar continues to rise, the theory holds that Canadian institutions might hypothetically opt to prepare for a gradual increase in activity, driven by client demand and risk management. Again, this remains a speculative theory, not confirmed behavior, but it powerfully reflects the typical evolutionary trajectory of institutional preparedness over time. The analysis further suggests that speculation often focuses more on this concept of preparation, rather than on confirmation of an event. Banks rarely issue public announcements detailing their future traffic expectations. They respond to emerging trends, not predictions. This inherent institutional discretion means that any adjustments made behind the scenes, new training, digital infrastructure enhancements, or workflow improvements, can easily appear to be connected to prevailing speculative theories. Investors observe these changes and draw their own conclusions based on the context and timing. Recently, intense discussions have emerged around the possibility that Canadian institutions may be actively optimizing their foreign exchange workflows to handle a wider array of foreign currencies, including those that are not exchanged frequently. When these internal discussions align with the surge of global interest in IQD-related topics, speculation naturally intensifies. This occurs not because the banks are officially signaling anything, but because the pursuit of institutional efficiency often aligns perfectly with investor imagination. This entire dynamic is the engine driving today's headline topic, the theory that Canada might be quietly preparing for increased IQD-related activity. While unconfirmed, the theory is subject to deep and continuous analytical scrutiny. A major component of this conversation revolves around the concept of readiness, a term analysts repeatedly emphasize. Readiness, in this context, does not imply the expectation of an event. Rather, it implies the active cultivation of capability. Institutions enhance their capabilities when they strategically anticipate broader foreign activity over a measured period. For dinar holders, this same principle of readiness is essential. The most experienced dinar watchers consistently advocate for maintaining organization, staying prepared, and remaining fully informed. This involves ensuring all currency notes are kept in impeccable condition, understanding the latest exchange protocols, and maintaining updated identification and documentation. This is not driven by any confirmed external event, but by the pragmatic realization that preparation significantly reduces stress and potential confusion should a period of increased exchange activity materialize in the future. This is why the discussion around Canada's possible operational preparation is so profoundly relevant. It mirrors the identical prudent mindset that every serious holder should adopt. Even if the Canadian speculation proves unrelated to the dinar, personal readiness remains an undeniable strength. Let's briefly explore the market psychology dimension. Whenever speculation intensifies to this degree, markets typically respond, not always with immediate price changes, but certainly with increased attention, intense debate, and strategic positioning among holders. Analysts monitor how sentiment moves because prevailing sentiment is a key driver of investor behavior. The recent dramatic surge in discussion focused on Canada's theoretical role in future IQD exchange activity is a textbook example of this phenomenon. The speculation itself has generated its own powerful momentum. It has prompted holders to meticulously reevaluate their organization, verify the condition of their notes, and refocus their attention on economic trends emanating from Iraq. This psychological momentum has the potential to influence how institutions plan, how investors adjust their strategies, and how markets generally anticipate future shifts. Crucially, none of this confirms a specific event, but it definitively demonstrates the sheer power of speculative narratives in a connected financial world. The true significance of the moment is not whether the theory is factually accurate, but how the existence of the theory successfully mobilizes broad attention and encourages a necessary posture of preparation among holders. We must also acknowledge the immediate global ripple effect. When one major financial center becomes the subject of this level of speculation, it instantly encourages analysts worldwide to search for similar patterns in other key countries. Some analysts postulate that if Canada appears through observation or interpretation to be preparing for increased currency activity, other nations may eventually adopt similar modernization paths. This could potentially result in synchronized global upgrades that fuel even more intense speculation. Again, whether these upgrades are explicitly tied to the Iraqi dinar or simply reflect broader global modernization trends does not significantly alter the narrative spread. The narrative gains global momentum because perception flows seamlessly across borders. Once a critical mass of individuals begins actively discussing the idea of an IQD exchange surge, the topic immediately becomes a global talking point. This is the current reality. The theory has rapidly transcended continental boundaries, fueling deep conversations spanning North America, Europe, and the Middle East. A continuous point of scrutiny in all currency-related speculation is the focus on verification. Banks place a massive emphasis on verification processes for fundament. Reasons of security, authenticity checks, document matching, fraud prevention, and strict compliance with regulations. These complex systems are in a constant state of evolution. When analysts observe the implementation of strengthened verification tools or the training of new specialized staff, they often theorize that institutions may be preparing for a surge in a specific type of foreign currency traffic. Canada is particularly noted for updating and improving its verification technology more frequently than many other nations. Therefore, when these proactive upgrades coincide with a globally heightened interest in the Iraqi dinar, the potential for speculation flourishes. Holders naturally begin to wonder whether these observed institutional improvements could be implicitly connected to future IQD activity. Irrespective of the ultimate substance of this speculation, understanding the verification angle helps holders navigate the operational processes with greater confidence and informed readiness. Now, let's discuss the proactive steps that informed holders should be taking, not as a reaction to any confirmed institutional preparation, but because preparedness is a sound strategy independent of market speculation. The initial step involves meticulously organizing any physical currency notes, ensuring they are clean, undamaged, and properly secured in storage. Secondly, holders should ensure their official identification and supporting documentation are current and readily available, a standard practice for any significant currency exchange transaction. Thirdly, staying informed is critical, which means relying not on unverified rumors but on responsible, consistent follow-up of official economic news, fiscal reforms, and authoritative updates emanating from Iraq. Fourthly, holders should maintain emotional stability. While speculation can generate considerable excitement, actual financial outcomes typically unfold over a much longer timeline than the narrative momentum suggests. When Canada becomes the focus of discussion, holders should analyze the topic responsibly and avoid making impulsive, emotionally driven decisions. Calm preparation and steady attention are consistently in a holder's best interest. Let's examine why speculation is so heavily dependent on timing. Its emergence is not random, it is almost always triggered by a convergence of contexts. When Iraq announces significant financial developments, global markets pay attention. When major global banking systems upgrade their infrastructure, observers immediately search for an underlying meaning. When these two distinct timelines overlap, even if by pure coincidence, speculation inevitably peaks. This is the driving force behind the current Canada preparation theory. Iraq has been demonstrably advancing in stabilizing and modernizing its economic framework, simultaneously with many nations, including Canada, modernizing their financial systems. The simple convergence of these concurrent timelines is fueling the intense global theory that Canada may be operationally preparing for increased IQD-related activity. Analysts are engaged in continuous debate, holders are discussing it intensely, and the online community is amplifying the narrative. A final analyst angle to consider is the concept of international coordination. Financial systems worldwide are inherently interconnected. When one nation updates its security protocols or adjusts its foreign currency workflows, other nations frequently follow suit, not necessarily in reaction to a specific currency, but because global standards for security and efficiency are perpetually evolving. Some analysts believe that Canada's recent banking updates may be a reflection of this broader international modernization wave. And because global interest in the dinar has simultaneously increased, observers naturally connect these two dots. They pose the analytical question, could this modernization, while generic in its implementation, eventually support a hypothetical increase in IQD-related traffic? Could Canada's improvements, while intended for general efficiency, align with future possibilities tied to rising foreign interest in the dinar? These complex questions drive speculation and informed theories, offering valuable insight into the dynamic evolution of the global financial environment for holders. To bring this comprehensive analysis to a conclusion, we return to the powerful concept of perception. Perception is a potent force that can move markets, profoundly influence speculative thinking, and ignite global conversations. This is precisely what is unfolding right now. The theory that Canada may be actively preparing for a surge in Iraqi dinar-related activity has gained massive global traction not due to confirmed official announcements, but because the narrative fits a recognizable pattern that investors consistently observe. institutional modernization, rising global attention, increasing foreign interest, and proactive financial upgrades. These core ingredients will always generate significant speculation. Therefore, the true takeaway for every holder is not Ether Canada is definitively preparing, but how this speculation reflects the undeniable growing global awareness of the Dinar conversation. For all holders, awareness, readiness, and informed, steady analysis remain the strongest possible tools in their possession. Finally, the most critical point to absorb is this: speculation does not equal confirmation, but speculation is a clear indicator of momentum, and momentum in the financial world is significant. As these intense discussions continue to amplify, more holders are taking the prudent step of organizing their notes, preparing their vital documentation, remaining fully informed, and actively monitoring global economic trends. This heightened level of awareness fundamentally strengthens the entire holder community. Whether Canada's institutional upgrades ultimately prove to be related to IQD exchange activity or simply reflect a necessary broader financial modernization, the mere act of speculation has achieved something profound. It has successfully refocused global attention on the Iraqi dinar. For holders, this means the present moment is the critical time to remain informed, stay organized, and remain emotionally steady. This is a period marked by high attention, deep analysis, and intense speculation, and regardless of the eventual outcome, those who remain steadfastly prepared will ensure they are in the strongest position moving forward.